I remember seeing a thing sent to me, and you know, #1 record of the year, and Bob Dylan was #2, and I was like, how is this possible? The critical acclaim was overwhelming.
Kind of what everyone always had hoped it was going to be. You know, we've all been playing in bands since 14, 15 years old.
There was a sort of sense in the air that we were on the verge of some kind of breakthrough. We were gaining strength as we were going, getting better as a band and getting definitely more popular and getting really good reviews, and then everything unraveled.
The long, slow disappointment was just, you know, realizing that this is just not going to work and things weren't right with all of us, and it was kind of devastating, really.
There was never any, I don't think there's any sort of formal, you know, we're not doing this anymore, just kind of see you in 5 years, you know.
Tell me that I need you so much for this happy end. Tell me what you want me to know.
Started the Mystery Girls when I was 17 with 3 friends, basically people who came out of like the Chicago punk scene. As we progressed, we decided to, and the lineup changed a bit, we decided to change our name to the Rose Hips. And we made a really good record that was critically acclaimed, went to #1 in Finland, but didn't do anything.
Our 2 bands, Rose Hips and Lava Sutra, which was myself, Tim, and Jason, we used to play together a lot.
Our 2 bands hung out a lot together, and that's how we all sort of knew each other from way back. We did a lot of shows together, so we had our own little scene.
Immediately before the Chamber Strings started, Kevin and I had done a tour with Epic Soundtracks.
In '95, Epic called me and asked me if I would be interested in playing with him in Europe. And we needed a drummer, so I called on Anthony.
And when we came back, both of the bands that we had been in broke up.
It formed a bond between Anthony and I. I said, this time I'm going to do like the Pretenders, the Waterboys do, and I'm going to basically make a solo record with a band name, slap my face on the cover, and if it evolves into a solid lineup, that's great. If not, I'll just keep getting people to come in and out and play shows with me.
Tragic lives unspoken. Life still stays open on holidays.
I played on all but 3 songs. We did it with this guy, Ellis Clark, who actually played bass on it. It was just at his house, you know, like a basement studio.
His basement, in his bedroom, then in an apartment. It took a long time to make because we had to keep switching locations and, you know, drilling a hole in his bedroom where he had the control board to go downstairs, and Ellis and Anthony and I playing the basic tracks down there, and you know, having a remote to flip on the tape machine.
It kind of felt piecemeal when we were doing it, but I think it came together pretty nicely as like a solid record.
Ellis had the friend who was Phil Donahue's son, oddly enough, Jim Donahue. He had started a new label, and that's what we were recording it for.
Did I feel too good this morning? I woke up and couldn't avoid. I fill up this last prescription. I arrived in dead man's voice.
as it was getting ready to come out, I said to Anthony, I need to assemble a live band and start playing a few shows. And Anthony said, okay, I'm not making any promises. I'll do this show, this first show. And Ellis was going to play bass, and he did. And he said, why don't we get Tim?
Played on one of the songs on the original pressing of Gospel Morning, and then when they wanted to start playing live, I joined up full time.
The album came out in stores, and then we did the first show right at the same time. We wanted to do this low-key show, so we did it at that old club Thurston's, and we thought, you know, maybe not a lot of people will be here, and we can kind of work out the kinks. But we get on stage, and the place is sold out and jam-packed. Our first show, and it was a great show, and that was the last time I ever picked up the phone to make a phone call to book a gig.
No more big decisions for the plans you made. Wouldn't be there anyway. Be there anyway.
When the record came out, it immediately started getting a lot of attention from the press and the media and the radio, and the record started doing really well. And we were getting big slots opening for other people. We were doing tours around the US and touring Europe as well. And we started getting courted by other labels, and we signed to a new label. Then I basically got what I had aimed for, which was for a bigger label to come along and pick it up and reissue it, sort of improve the packaging, put some bonus tracks on, made some singles. And when it was reissued, that was '99, then we really started touring and promoting, and then it started getting an enormous amount of attention.
I'm gonna thank my lucky stars. I'm gonna thank my lucky stars. I'm gonna thank my lucky stars, baby.
Jason came aboard when Ellis got to the point that he couldn't tour and couldn't commit or didn't want to commit further.
Ellis had just gotten married and had a kid. He's like, I've got no one to watch my kid. Like, I can't tour, really. I just said, well, I can't really just have somebody kind of fill in for tours and then you be in the band. Like, it's just not fair. I got to replace you, you know. And he was fine with that. He's starting a family.
Kevin came to me after a show at Lounge Acts and said, "Do you play bass?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." I started on bass. Been playing bass for years, which was stretching the truth a bit. But I really liked the chamber strings a lot. I really liked his songs and really wanted to be in that band.
We continued to tour and do local shows, but all along I had been looking for a piano player that could sing backing vocals. Carolyn moved to town from San Francisco. She kind of just dropped down from heaven on us, you know.
One of the two people I knew here who had been a friend of mine in San Francisco happened to be really good friends with Kevin Jr. So we would go out, and have drinks and just hit it off. And he didn't know that I was a keyboard player, which was intentional. I actually had told my friend not to tell anybody that I was a keyboard player because I had been wanting to kind of get back into playing bass. I actually let it slip one night when I had finally moved into an apartment here. And we were out, and I said to Kevin, like, "Oh man, I'm so glad I finally am in my place, and I have my keyboard, and I can play some music." And he was like, what'd you say?
And it's like, you're kidding. I was like, you don't happen to sing too? And she's like, yeah. And I also play violin and viola, and I play the harp, and I can do notations and string arrangements.
So he's like, you have to listen to my band. So I think it was that same night he like grabbed a copy of Gospel Morning and brought it over and we listened to it. Of course I really liked it. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
We had our first rehearsal, and she played every song off Gospel Morning perfectly. And all of a sudden it was, you know, this is it. This is the lineup. That was like my dream record, Month of Sundays, and you know, I felt like I was going in and being able to like make my pet sounds, basically.
Kevin's definitely the guy who decides the musical direction. He writes all the songs. That was the agreement from the start going in. And, you know, he decided by that point that he liked lush music and he wanted to do more soul music influenced stuff, or Dusty Springfield and Memphis soul influenced stuff.
We spent a lot of time practicing and arranging those songs. Carolyn and I did a lot of work, just her and I, making making those string and brass arrangements really strong.
Kevin just had some melodies in his head, and he really just had to sing them to me and tell me where he wanted them to be, where he was hearing them in the music, and he'd be like, you know, I want this to be really soft, or I want this to be a big swell here, and then I would ask some questions like, do you want a lot of harmonies, or do you, like, how do you feel about just being like one solo instrument? You know, we just talk about the sound, and so it actually was really pretty smooth.
I don't think of it as necessarily stylistically different. I think we were able to define the ideas that had been floating around a little better because we had the means to do it.
We had a much bigger budget, I mean, that's for sure, and we had a great producer, Tom Monahan from the Lilies and Bernice Brothers and whatever else he's doing now, and he was really good.
Tom called me and I was like, I'm looking to make, you know, like Dusty and Memphis meets George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, and we just clicked on every level of that.
We were all really in sync with each other, and Tom Monahan was definitely in sync with our ideas too.
He was a good translator from everyone's, for everyone's, muddled ideas that were spouting out behind the vision that, was already in place.
He understood the sound that we were after and totally knew how to make it happen.
We rented out this great analog studio, Uber studio.
Nice big drum room, nice big, everything.
We pretty much had the wherewithal to do whatever we wanted, which was cool. I mean, it was exhausting, but it was also exciting.
We had basically an endless budget. There was no top to it.
And it was fantastic. It was great to work like that. It was the first time any of us had the luxury of making a record that way.
Let me live my own life. The best you can is the best you could find.
recording of that was just one of the greatest times I ever had.
We knew when the record was being made that it was something really exceptional. You know, but you never know if people are going to buy into it or not.
The record release show was sold out, and we had like a 14-piece string and brass section.
If I can make it through the summer, I know that everything will be alright. If I can make it through the summer, I know that everything will be alright.
It seemed like, we'd go out for a couple months, come back for a month, and go out again. So yeah, we toured the hell out of that thing.
And the crown pulled up its covers, 'cause they know that's the end of summer, autumn time.
When you're on tour, the first thing you do when you get in town is look in the local papers and see what they said. And I don't think I ever saw a bad review of that album. But we also knew enough about the industry to know that that was no guarantee that we were gonna, make it big.
What we might. Summertime.
The critical acclaim was overwhelming, and I kept seeing them from all parts of the world, and the #1 record of 2001, and we took it with a grain of salt.
Overhead, do what you can. Your 3 long months are going so fast.
When things started amping up, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of everything,
A lot of being on the go.
We had fans and we had great venues and good shows and, really excellent response.
LA and San Francisco and New York and Chicago were always good, but then even people were showing up in Boise and stuff like that, which was pretty cool.
Kind of what everyone always had hoped it was going to be. We've all been playing in bands since, 14, 15 years old.
It was very exciting to sort of feel the love.
We were being asked by all these huge bands to either open shows at huge places or go on tour with them. Our headlining tours, we were just packing the clubs and small little theaters.
There was a sort of sense in the air that we were on the verge of some kind of breakthrough. I don't know to what level, but there was that sense that we were gaining strength as we were going.
Definitely felt like we were on to something,
And then everything unraveled.
The road below won't take me under.
Near the end of the touring that record, Kevin had things going on that were, involved in some things maybe he shouldn't have been. Not that any of us were angels by any means.
During that entire record, I had a complete heroin addiction that had been building up for a couple of years before that. The death of my best friend and musical compadre, Epic Soundtracks, that happened at the end of '97. That hit me very, very hard, and I tried to seek professional help. I was doing therapy, and they had me on antidepressants and things, and the stuff just wasn't working. I was just in way too much grief, my drug use just started to escalate. I was a secret drug user, even though, I'm sure it was written all over my face,
There was probably, on my part anyway, some blind eye, kind of for the sake of keeping it going, which, may have been selfish on my part.
We knew what was going on for so long and just kept ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it.
It totally got in the way of us being able to communicate with him and and really be friends with him. You know, our friendships really suffered with him.
I found myself unable to communicate with them anymore. Found myself kind of boxed in at you know, in the back of the van, just sort of alone. And I kept trying to get clean, and there was not enough time for me to really do it in that period. And my addiction just kept getting, and depression was getting deeper and deeper.
The long, slow disappointment was just like, you know, realizing that this is just not going to work, and things weren't right with all of us.
Our tours started becoming extremely manic. Things like the van would pull up. We're starting a 6-week tour, and the van would pull up, and I'm just getting out of bed, you know, we're ready to go, and like I haven't even packed for a tour, you know, and I'm just like trying to figure out, you know, just a skeleton of what I used to be. I went down to about 115 pounds.
You know, that was the other thing that was so hard, because besides the fact that our band was falling apart, we were watching our friend fall apart. So it was saddening and maddening and heartbreaking.
We had done our last tour we did with the Posies and the Pernice Brothers, which was a lot of fun. Good tour, good shows. Kevin's health was not up to par to handle the tour.
Kevin got friends in every town that would, you know, feed him whatever that he wanted, and it just so happened that we got to San Francisco and there was nobody there to do that for him. And so he got sick before the show, and he ended up flying home from San Francisco, and I think we canceled a couple of shows, and it was the first time that we really had to cancel shows because of somebody's, you know, problem.
The frustration is what really took over in the end, because we just, you know, couldn't work with the guy.
We never tried an intervention, put it that way. I think we all just got mad.
When we got back to Chicago, there were some lies that were told.
Yeah, there was some money issues. Money that had not gotten to where it was supposed to get to.
And that's when Carolyn and I basically confronted Kevin after a show.
The infamous Abbey Pub last show, where the end of the show, everyone walked out.
It was a rough show. I mean, I think, you know, as far as the audience was concerned, I think it went okay, but it definitely wasn't a very good performance from our perspective. And just, you know, it was just difficult, and I was at my wit's end.
We just had to call him out on a big lie that he had told us, and we basically said, we gave him a chance to own up and tell the truth, and he just lied.
I remember like Jason and Carolyn like shouting at me about something, and me just like not really understanding.
She was just like, you can look for another keyboard player, and she walked off, and I just said to him, you know, you had so many chances.
No more songs, no more songs, no more songs for when it's gone. Shut it down and say so. No one's left at all. Nowhere left to call home.
I cut off communication from the world. I turned my answering machine off, turned the volume down. The mail came in, I didn't even look at it, just stacked up. My marriage, like 15 years, was coming to an end, and I was completely lost in a total fog and haze. I sat in a bedroom for 10 months, just closed myself in, and it was a really miserable period, and I really had no desire to do anything.
A tragic comedy ensued in me. I never knew what good could be.
I just kind of left town without a word. I went back to Akron, Ohio, my home, and stayed there for 3 months. And then all these people in Los Angeles seemed to really welcome me with open arms. And I just bought a one-way ticket out there and packed a few bags.
The streets were lit up with hopes and dreams, made me devise another scheme.
I just felt like, well, I'm just going to get a new lineup for the chamber strings. The one time I did it with a full band, I was disgusted. I immediately wanted to get things back together, but I don't think they really wanted to have anything to do with me. They saw the guy that they knew was their friend, and their band leader just changed into this completely different person.
I come apart, now can't you see?
I played solo acoustic shows out there. I did like a 3-hour acoustic show at Spaceland in LA. I just kept playing, you know. I don't know if they wanted me to carry on or stop, but I just kept playing.
I watched him struggle, then he broke free, just like the man I used to be.
I finally decided to go into rehab. End of 2002, I go in and I get clean. I come out and like all of a sudden I come out of this fog, and I'm like, oh my God, what on earth happened? You know, I never wanted to be that way in the first place. I certainly didn't think there was anything cool about it. I was always trying to hide it from people. But the thing was, is I was just all alone out there in LA, and I just kept hitting rock bottom after rock bottom. I started getting arrested for drugs, and I kept going back to rehab, and then they would basically just like let me out loose on the street. I had no money, nowhere to go, and I was completely alone. And so when they would let me out of rehab, you know, the first thing I would do was just go back and pick up the needle again. It got to the point where I didn't have any more couches to sleep on, and I went to downtown LA Skid Row district, where you could get a bag of heroin for $5, and you could buy crack cocaine for $5. And I just completely forgot who I was.
I hit the pavement, got down on my knee, God and His mercy shine on me.
Every night I got my bed out of a garbage dumpster, and I slept on the street. I was just walking around with nothing but the clothes on my back. I kept getting picked up and getting thrown in jail. Things just went from bad to worse, and worse to worse to worse to worse to worse.
Things come apart so easily.
One day I couldn't get off the ground. There's a man called Moses Banks who was out there. He had been out there for a couple of years, and he's about a 60-year-old old black guy who was my only friend out there, and we looked out for each other. And one day I just couldn't get up off the ground. I couldn't move anything. I was in an enormous amount of pain, and I waited all day for him to find me. And he picked me up and carried me to the bus, and you know, had to beg people for money to get us bus fare, and he took me to the hospital. And it turned out when I got there, they said I had an endocarditis, which is an infection on your heart valve, which basically comes from shooting bad dope that has bacteria in it.
In my condition, you made up my decision. Sickest thing I ever saw. And now I'm strapped to a hospital bed. You nearly left me for dead. You nearly
They said if I hadn't gotten in there within 24 hours, I would have been a dead man. Of course, I tried to leave. They made me sign a thing when I was trying to leave, like a disclaimer, like saying if you leave this building, you are most likely going to die within the next 24 hours. And I tried to leave, and I fell on my face on the front stairs of the hospital. And they picked me up and took me back in there. To be with you, doomed without you, doomed without you, doomed with you, I'm doomed without you. I went in the hospital. After being in there 6 weeks, I decided I had to get out of LA. I went back to Akron, Ohio for a while. And, I tried to stay clean. I always tried, but I don't know how many times I relapsed. And, of course, I found a dealer in Akron, Ohio. I'm Through this entire thing, I'd been writing the next Chamber Strings record. Basically, when I would go into rehab and, like, get clean for a little while, I would start writing songs. There was like a hotel lobby and there was a piano in there, and I would go in there and start writing songs. My notebooks kept getting stolen, because everything was getting stolen, but I kept retaining it up here. Can't stand a vulture, fell but I caught you. Got so tired and we all knew. Last time to tango, I'm going solo. But we all know that it takes two. Nikki suddenly called me and asked me to come to Berlin and start touring and living over there. And so I did that. I spent a year over in Europe, and I spent 3/4 of that based in Berlin. Nikki and I would go out, and I would play a solo set, and then I would play guitar for him for his set. We toured Italy, Germany, Belgium, just all over Europe. That was starting to bring me back to life. However, I fucking based myself in the heroin capital of the world, Berlin, and it was impossible to escape it there. So I found myself right back in the thick of it again. Being with Nikki, we were just both such bad influences on each other. We loved each other like brothers, had great times, but we also fought like brothers. We were fighting over fucking bags of heroin. We finished touring, and I had to get out. I had to get out of Berlin, so I moved over to London. I'm doomed without you. We never had ourselves a home. Our friends don't want us no more. When I got to London, immediately I found the spot to buy drugs. And all my friends from the past are kind of gone, dead, or have moved on to a different life. I was tired. I was sick of this life. My arms just looked like they'd been through a meat grinder. My skin was just pasty, and I was just the worst wreck you could ever imagine. I want that time again. I found a kindred spirit in a friend of Nikki's, a writer named Robert Deller, who put me up in his house. He was very, very encouraging. And I had another friend, Paul Caton, and they were just like, you have to do this. You have to get better.
try again. No.
I found a doctor who could help me. She got me set up and she got me rolling and she got me well. My friend Robert funded it for me, gave me emotional support, and Paul Caton gave me emotional support as well. And then I found myself clean again. I was ready. You know, all of a sudden I put it down and I said, I'm never picking this stuff up again.
I want that time again. Ooh, this time again.
The whole time I was just kept saying, like, you know, in this
The other four of us decided to form a new group, and I had already done some recordings as Saint-Tropez, and I thought it would be a good name to use for the four-piece. So we went on as that.
It felt natural still to play without Kevin, because we had played without Kevin before. We might have tried a little hard for a while.
It was like a different band though, actually, because we were doing different material and it sounded a lot different.
We had to sort of try to redefine ourselves with Jason writing songs and me writing songs, and you know, I'm not really a songwriter.
None of us is an incredibly motivated person. You know, we don't have ambition, any of us particularly.
We played a lot more in the rehearsal space than we did out. I mean, we played for like 3 years, and then, you know, I think we played a handful, maybe 5 gigs.
We really struggled without someone in that leadership role, you know, because Kevin is just so enthusiastic and so dedicated to pursuing success with the band and getting gigs and you know, making the phone calls and stuff, and the rest of us are like, okay, who's gonna book a show?
That's one thing that Kevin does bring is ambition.
I'm really glad that we did it because we all loved playing music with each other and would have really missed that.
The good thing is that we kept playing together through those years. So when Kevin did come back, it was like we weren't cold at all. We were already warmed up, and more than warmed up, we had gotten better.
Through a few channels, we had found out that he was coming back to Chicago and, you know, wanted to see everybody.
I stayed with a friend, and then I hooked up with Anthony again.
I hadn't been in contact with Kevin for about 4 years. My wife actually made me shut the hell up and go see him, and it was immediately like old times. So he ended up staying with us for a couple of months.
I reacquainted myself with everybody again. We had our talks, and you know, we had gotten kind of back on the same wavelength.
The idea was maybe to get the band back together, and everybody was kind of skeptical.
I think everyone was still carrying this chip on their shoulder around about everything. So there was certainly resistance.
You know, after all that we'd been through with him, it was hard not to be skeptical and be like, yeah, sure, we're gonna get the band back together.
We were almost getting ready to practice and have the reunion.
It ended up with, well, Kevin and Anthony in a fist fight. Which, if you know either of them, is just the funniest thing in the world. Because neither of them is really a fighter.
It was physical, put it that way.
We just had another misunderstanding, and it was over again.
We weren't quite ready to go on to the next level. the next step of it all. Which was really sad.
I just said, I just need a place to sit down and finally unpack my bags. So I went to New Orleans. Basically, I stayed there for 6 months, stayed in complete solitude in this house by myself with a couple of dogs that I took care of every day. And I just sat and I finished writing the next Chamber Strings record. When I was in New Orleans, I got on the phone with Jason and we just started having these really long powwows and like, let's just get it all ironed out now.
I just thought if there was a possibility that we could all play together again, it would be really a shame if we didn't, even if it was just one show.
Jason was the catalyst and the middleman for getting this back together.
We started this email correspondence, and he would say things that were like, okay, don't get mad, but I'm going to tell you. And that was sort of like our credo. It was like, okay, don't get mad, but dude, I'm going to tell you the truth.
Our letters were unbelievably long to each other.
And we started having a really honest correspondence.
And Jason would pass along everything that I would say to those guys.
So I became a go-between between him and the other three.
They would start warming up, you know, like, is he crazy still? Is he functional? Is he crazy? Is he clean? Is he sober? Is he okay?
I was telling them, look, this could work. I know that it broke down the last time, but if we approach it like this, it might happen. And I kept telling him, here's how you have to approach these three.
Jason was really kind of working it, on our behalf.
So I kind of, convinced the doubters and got everybody to talk to each other.
The stage was set, basically, and he just said, Jason said, I've talked to everybody. All you got to do is call him.
We were hearing a lot sort of secondhand from him that he was going to call us. He's going to call us. And any day now he's going to call us. And then he finally did.
He called like Jason and Carolyn, and they hashed it out. And I said, I don't really need a phone call. I don't like talking on the phone, so I'll see you at practice.
It was presented to me that Kevin's back, wants to practice. And I just said, okay. I didn't want to carry any bullshit around with me anymore.
We were all like, yeah, why not? We might as well at least do a show and see what happens.
And then we finally did it. We met in the rehearsal room.
We were all there. He shows up, plugs in, we started playing, and it was like yesterday. Like no time had passed at all.
We went into the first song and it was just like, Jesus Christ, this works.
We should get together. This time we'll just use another name. Drink up to one can another. Come inside, I know it's not okay.
The first practice when we got back together was just like ridiculous. It was just the best musical experience I've ever had.
It was like old times. The good ones.
It was exciting. It was pretty emotional for me. I don't know. I think everybody a little bit. Just kind of give you the shivers a little.
Does not feel like 5 years have passed at all. Except that we all play a lot better.
It was all there again, right back to where it started, but better.
We'll leave you with a song to remember your loved ones by. Remember the people that have been in your life. Remember the people that are in your life. And be with the people in your life, because they might not be here tomorrow.
We choose our friends so carefully. We take them in with our family. We make it through in our time of need. We choose our friends so accordingly. We hope to God that there won't come a day when all our friends pack up and go away. But they'll just go 'cause their lives have changed. Live their lives in some foreign place. Our dead friends, our passing friends.
I can't not do this, you know, because it's just too great to be playing this stuff again and playing with this group again.
Spend our days with our passing friend. Some are gone from the life they led. Some slip by, make our best left. Some stayed here, now they've gone to bed. Spend our days with our passing friend.
We're doing it because we love playing music with each other. We certainly do want to make another record. The new songs are great. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Empty yards in the back of every town. Lost their time, now their lives can be found. We made them monks and they don't make a sound. All dead friends.
We got a bunch of demos from them that sound good, so I wouldn't doubt that there'd be a record in the future.
And when you come, your life will end. Spend our days with the passing friend. They say that it's a better life. We can't get lost in time, but don't you let it end. 'Cause we're running out of friends in our short life. Our short life.
He's given us a CD of 12 or 13 new songs, and says he's got a few more. So to make a great record, to make the great record, if you will, that's the goal.
They're our best friends. So come and take
they're the most talented people that I could ever be playing with. And I have a new great record written that I think is going to be the best one yet, which is going to be called Divorce, which is a divorce from all the bad things in my life that had happened.
We want it all as if our life depends. Things we do on the times we spend. And someday soon it might all come to an end. We waste our days lying in our beds. Want a sign, I want you to be there. Know you're out there, just don't know where. And turn away, cause it's just not fair. Never know just when our time is near. Our dead friend, our passing friend. And when you're gone, your life will end. Spend the days with our passing friend. Our dead friend, our best friend. Our dead friends, our best friends. Our dead friends.